will help us radically change how we go about exploring problems and creating solutions to those problems. That means basic things what we can understand from this is that design thinking is not being limiting to a process. That means we cannot tell that it is some steps, but there are some steps I will tell that is been very essential when we are solving some problem. So how we can get problem, how we can so that type of steps should be there. Yes, now these are the basic steps for design thinking and innovation. First point is not necessarily, so remember that one point I would like to tell you, that all these steps you cannot tell that it is a linearly, we should follow linearly, we can follow non-linearly also. So that also according to ourselves we can add some more steps. So these are some basic steps. First point is what? Frame a question. So inspire your team to think about your customers. What are the questions are? First point is for whom you are thinking a solution and what they actually need. So that is the question. So that questions you have to frame it. For whom you are thinking a solution and what they actually need. Second point is we have to gather some inspirations. Go out, go out into the world and seek inspiration by observing and discovering what people really need. We should go out from to means to provide some solutions or some problem or solution to the problems that society has. So how we can know this? We should go meet various people, various like some people are in higher position, they are doing just, some people are like they are not doing any job and they're like some simple people, normal people. We should talk to all of them. We should take some there is inspirations. It is not like that somebody tells some bogus type of things, we are not writing it, we should take that thing also. And then and another point is the generate ideas using that inspiration. So using that inspiration, what you have to do, you have to gather some fresh solution. We'll discuss among our team members and we should gather some fresh solutions. Then another point is make ideas tangible. After getting some solutions to that problem, we should go for a rough prototypes. So that means some prototypes we should design and we see how it is working and what is working and what is not. So that type of things we should have done. So that means we can some you cannot tell that this is linearly followed. You may follow generate ideas, then you may again create some prototypes. You see that it is not working, then you can get back to your again generate ideas. You have to again idea has to be generated. So that type of things you cannot tell it is a linear process, it is non-linear processes. Next one, test to learn. Next one, whatever our prototypes are, suppose we got that it is working, so test your prototypes, gather feedback and iterate. That means you have to test your prototype for and whatever the problems you have solved, we have to test it and we should gather the feedback, then iterate. Even it is not working, we should again modify it, and why it is not working, we have to see this. Then once it has been done, this should be share the story. Once you get the right solution, share among all your colleagues, clients and customers. So these are the basic steps. So so I would like to tell you some through an example. Suppose the example is, suppose you need to develop some wastage management, like some plastics are there we are using. So what are the ideas how to solve it? You go and ask to, for an example I am giving one example of solving this. You go and ask to everyone, whoever you are thinking that there is a normal people, these are intelligent people, you ask everyone. Then take the ideas, collect ideas and note it. Daily you can go 10 12 people, so ask and note it down on separate pages. Then you make a team and discuss among all the ideas, and you think that is there some good ideas are coming, and then you take it that thing, and then you give the if any ideas is coming, then you try to make a prototypes on that. So that is the things I told you from all these whatever the points I have written. So that means it is not like you have just see these points and you need to do this in practice. So you have to go and when you have to ask this society, any people, what are their problems, what they need. And these are the various problems that we can design thinking can help us to solve. First point is human centered innovation, and this is very important. Next one is quality of life or problems affecting diverse groups of people, shifting markets and behaviors, coping with rapid social or market changes. So you have to be compete with the that means social or market changes are there. Issues relating to corporate culture, so like issues relating to new technology, so reinventing business models, addressing rapid changes in society, so educational advances, medical breakthroughs, problems that data cannot solve. So like various problems that we can solve using the design thinking process. So that is my end of my presentation. The main thing over here is what I would like to tell you, that we have to follow. These are basic steps, and these steps we should follow in practice it, and we have to make it practical. We have to do exercise on it, and then only we can get some solution. And main thinking, another point is we should make some team, good team, and these are very important. We have the right mindset and we have a appropriate team, and the environment is also we are giving environment is there.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to invite Professor R. Anand, whose area of expertise is IPR and technology transfer.
Thank you. So, I believe this screen is visible to everybody.
Yes.
Okay. So the topic on which I underwent a small training was on intellectual property rights and technology transfer. So I just briefly tell what I have learned and how one can proceed with how to apply for a patent, or where whom to approach. Those kinds of fundamental things I will just brief in the next 10 to 15 minutes. So what is this intellectual property rights? These are nothing but the legal rights that protect creations and or inventions resulting from intellectual activity in the industrial, scientific, literary or artistic fields. So these are legal rights. So one has to know about it in the present scenario. All of us should know what our rights are, and intellectual property is no less than any other rights that we can own up. The most common intellectual property rights include patents, copyrights, trademarks, and trade secrets. So some people try to put a trademark, some people apply for a patent, some people tend to even use a trade secret. They may not wish to even ask for a patent. They will rather keep that as a trade secret. For example, the best example being Coca-Cola. We all have heard since time immemorial that the formula for Coca-Cola is unknown to anybody, and it has been preserved in a very safe chamber somewhere. And why do they do that is because they do not want the knowledge that they have to be dissipated to the public. So they do not want any competitor, something like that. So the major reason behind not asking for a patent, but for a trade secret, was because this coca plant, it happens to grow in South America, and this is a plant which also is a source for cocaine. So the name cocaine, in fact, originates from the name coca. As well as this cola is a plant that is native to Africa, and this seeds of these plants are basically used for making the caffeine. So Coca-Cola in the initial days, it was known to have contained some amount of caffeine, and probably maybe some small amount of cocaine is also there. The name directly comes from there, and also they do not want the secret behind that to be shared with any other people. So some people go for trade secrets, but as we know that except for certain such kind of products, secrets are not generally preferred by the public. So rather patents are better. So where does we come to talk about intellectual property? If we want to broadly divide property, it can be divided into two types. One is tangible, that can be felt, touched, and experienced, and the second is an intangible property. So the tangible properties can further be divided into a movable or an immovable. For example, a car or a house are tangible properties, while intangible properties are the best example is the intellectual property. So somebody's idea, this cannot be felt or experienced except by the person who holds it. Right? So the intellectual property rights, they themselves include all of these. One is copyrights, which we have always heard of, then patents, trademarks, industrial designs, and geographical indications. All of these come under intellectual property rights. World over, there are organizations for every nation, every country, where these rights are protected, and the people who hold any of these, they are given a privilege to hold on to their intellectual property. So why do we need an intellectual property right? It is basically to provide an incentive to individuals for new creations. So somebody comes up with a new creation and we boost that individual up and congratulate or give an incentive to that person so that the innovation can continue. So the intellectual property rights, therefore, primarily they are providing an incentive to individuals. It also is used to accord due recognition to the creators and inventors. So we also look for recognition, and so IPR takes care of that. It also helps to ensure material reward for intellectual property. It also helps to make available genuine and original products. So you keep on to your intellectual property, so there is no faking of what you know, what you have innovated. So to avoid fake products to crowd the market, you better have an IPR certificate. So an IPR certificate, therefore, establishes legal and valid ownership of an intellectual property. So this is the reason why we need to know about intellectual property rights. And India is also ahead, quite ahead in this handling of intellectual property rights. And IPRs can be protected and monopolized under the provisions of different acts. Plenty of acts are there, and just I'm listing few of them. One is the Patent Act, 1970. It is used to protect technologies. The Designs Act to protect our outer ornamental configuration. The Trademark Act to protect words, signs, logos, and labels. The Geographical Indications of Goods Act to protect region-specific product, and the Copyright Act to protect literary and artistic work. Apart from this, we also have a Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Act that was passed in the year 2001. These acts undergo certain amendments as an act of the Parliament at the legislators' table. They also get updated and amended with the time. But one has to know about all of these laws if somebody wants to do some brand trademark or patent some product. Okay, so the first we'll look at the copyright. So we'll look at one by one. The first thing is the copyright, patents, trademarks, industrial designs, and geographical indications. So when we look at the copyrights, we all know that copyright is a legal term describing rights given to creators of their literary and artistic works. And a copyright comes into existence as soon as the work is created and protects skill and labor employed by the creator in production of his work. So you need to have a copyright for literary and artistic works. We, in the present day, particularly we in an academic institution, we are aware of this plagiarism, where anything that has been published in the form of literature, it is an intellectual property of the publisher as well as the author of that material. So you need to have a copyright to protect it so that people do not make use of that for untoward things. So the works covered by copyright include literary works such as novels, poems, plays, reference works, newspapers and articles. Computer programs and databases can also have copyrights. Films, we know that, musical compositions, dance and theatrical productions, all of these can be protected by copyrights. Artistic works such as paintings, drawings, photographs and sculptures, architecture, advertisements, maps, technical drawings and manuals, all of these can come under a Copyright Protection Act. Okay, so then when we look at patents, patent is an exclusive monopoly right. Okay, so that is I have a patent, so I have the total right, exclusive right on it, that nobody can replicate that. But then it is not that I have a patent and it stays with me even after my my passing away. it need not stay with me, right? So because these are again the patents are rights which the general public should also enjoy. Though I created something, I have a monopoly, I cannot hold on to it forever. Okay, so there is a period over which you can file a patent, and it expires after that. And if you are still living, you want to continue with the patent, you can always do that. But after a person who has a patent is gone, of course, you can protect it so that the public good is protected. So this is basically granted by the government. So in our case, Government of India, for an invention to the inventor or his assignee as a territorial right in lieu of disclosure of invention to the government. So it is very simple. We all know that many things can be patented. And the criteria of patentability are these: novelty. It has to be something new. If something already exists in the market, then there is nothing new that you can claim for a patent. And inventive step, or it must be non-obvious. It shouldn't be too obvious that people missed it out. Okay, so it has to be some sort of an invention capable of industrial application. So a patent should also have some productivity to it. So it should have some industrial application, and it should not fall within the provision of section 3 and 4 of the Patents Act 1970. And what are these section 3 and 4? Section 3 includes a list which are not inventions, like those that are frivolous or obvious. For instance, we have learned about somebody trying to make petroleum out of herbal products, and it was verified by multiple laboratories that there is something frivolous there. So it cannot come under a Patents Act. And contrary to well-established natural laws, certain things which are not established in the natural laws, what we experience in nature, those cannot also be patented. Injurious to public health, mere arrangement and rearrangement, that is, you just make the same thing in a different way and try to ask for a patent. Discovery of scientific principle, a principle cannot be patented. Discovery of a living thing or non-living substances in nature, these cannot be patented. And method of agriculture or horticulture, these are not patentable. And a mathematical business method or a computer program, these are not patentable. While under section 4, you have atomic energy related things which are again not patentable. So these are defined by the country, and in our case, India. So we have an act which takes care of all of these. So then talking about trademarks, it is generally covering brand or a logo, and it is generally a visual symbol, which may be a word, signature, name, device, label, numerals or combination of colors used by one undertaking on goods or services or other articles of commerce to distinguish it from other similar goods or services originating from a different undertaking. Forget about what I read through. Basically, what it is all about is that I have to give a brand or a logo. Like we talk about IIT, ISM Dhanbad, we have got a logo. So that is very specific, and it's sort of a trademark. So for products also, we know when you talk about, say, Nike, so it is a trademark logo. From the appearance of that word as well as the brand logo, you know that what it is, and you know how genuine the goods are. So any name which is not usual for trade to adopt as a mark can be called as a trademark. A device or a symbol or a monogram, anything can be used as a trademark. And shape of goods or their packing can be used as a trademark. For instance, we talk about this bottle shapes, right? So, the Coca-Cola bottle, or for instance, the Amul ghee, what is the shape of the bottle? So these are again can be considered as trademarks. So any violation, anybody who replicates by violating the trademark can be punished under certain acts of the some law. So combination of colors or even a single color in combination with word or device can be used as a trademark. For example, these are types of trademarks. You can use this can with the symbol and the logo. So that can be considered as a trademark. ISI, there's a trademark. Apple logo, or any university, or even T, anything that is a geographical indicator, that also that can be considered as that logo can be considered as a trademark. Then talking about industrial designs, ornamental or aesthetic aspect of a useful article of industry. Okay, so this is basically the ornamental look of a product. The aspect that gives special appearance to it, and the aspect which differentiates it from current products, is what we call as the design. And it has to be the aesthetic or the visual form of a product and not the technical or distinguishing features like trademarks or patents. So it is distinctly different from a patent or a trademark because it has to appeal to the aesthetics of the product. The ornamental or aesthetic aspects of an article consists of three-dimensional features such as the shape, surface, or texture of an article, or two-dimensional features such as patterns, lines, or colors. Any of these can be considered as an industrial design. Design makes the product attractive and appealing to the consumers and adds to its commercial value for that reason. And that is the reason why I want to again bring it under an IPR law, because I do not want somebody to take over my design and claim profit out of it. Then finally, about geographical indications, GIs identify agricultural, natural or manufactured goods associated with a territory, region or a locality. For instance, many of us know that there is this ongoing tussle between particularly people from Odisha and Bengal, that where the product Rasagulla came into existence. So they have equally good arguments, and probably it parallelly developed in both places. So both of them can have a claim on it. So, but the government of India, it had asked the governments of Odisha and West Bengal to file for geographical indications. And now we know there is a Bangla Rasagulla and the Odisha Rasagulla. So these two, both of them have GI tags. So there is no more unnecessary tussle between the governments on where it came from. So this GI, therefore, it again, apart from protecting your rights, it also leads to this reconciliation of people who might otherwise go into arguments. Okay, so GIs are therefore very, very specific to a region or a locality, and it gives protection to the group of people or associations involved in the production of the product using traditional skills and knowledge. And the manufactured goods should be produced or processed or prepared in that territory. So that is where the GI's rules come into picture, that you cannot make the same Odisha Rasagulla in Bengal following the recipe of the Odisha Rasagulla and claim it to be Odisha Rasagulla, okay, or Bangla Rasagulla. So it has to be prepared within the territory. This gives a special quality to the product due to geographical, climatic environment, reputation, specific manufacturing or forming skills, traditions, and other characteristics attributable to origin. We all know, we all come from different places. We see that our geographic, climatic conditions are unique, and certain food that is native to each of our places, they have a certain aroma or taste. So it is very good that we have these GI tags attached to the products. It consists of the name of the place of origin and originates from a definite geographical territory. For example, these are some Indian geographical indications: Darjeeling tea, basmati rice. Okay, globally we know that basmati rice is very popular to be an Indian product. And then Kanchipuram silk saree, Alfonso mango, Nagpur orange, Kolhapuri chappal, Bikaner bhujia, Tirupati laddu, Agra petha. Okay, all of these, like the Rasagulla we talked about, all of these are geographical indications from India. And similarly, within tea itself, you have a lot of varieties. Some come from like Duars and the Darjeeling come from Darjeeling, Nilgiris come from southern part of India, and Assam. So each of them come with a logo and a name. So these are all GI tags. Okay, and then so where do we get all of this information? Indian government has got a very beautiful site, www.ipindia.gov.in. It comes under the Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. And the website is very superbly maintained. And any information that you want, whatever I shared with you, everything is available there. So you don't have to look for anything else. In fact, this is just an orientation course, but anybody who wants to access the acts, the laws, what all are covered under Patent Act or whatever act we discussed, everything is available in this website. I will briefly show you also the website here. And the Intellectual Property India, that is the website, the Office of the Controller General of Patents, Designs and Trademarks is located at Mumbai. There are multiple offices distributed all over the country. The Office of the Controller General of these Patents, Designs and Trademarks is located at Mumbai, but the head office of the Patent Office is at Kolkata, and it has branch offices in Chennai, New Delhi, and Mumbai. The Trademarks Registry is at Mumbai, and its branches are located in Kolkata, Chennai, Ahmedabad, and New Delhi. The design office is located at Kolkata in the patent office, and the offices of the Patent Information System and an institute called as Rajiv Gandhi National Institute of Intellectual Property Management is located. These are located at Nagpur. Okay, and the Controller General supervises the working of the Patents Act as amended, the Designs Act and the Trademarks Act, and also renders advice to the government on matters relating to these subjects. So it's a big position. And in order to protect the geographical indications of goods, a geographical indications registry has been established in Chennai to administer the geographical indications of goods Act under the CGPD team. Okay, so these are the manuals that are downloadable. These are multi-page manuals explaining you what are the procedures for filing a patent, and it is published by this house, and it comes under the Intellectual Property India, which has that beautiful website. And all of these manuals are downloadable. One is for the patents, another is for the trademarks, and these are for designs, practice, and procedure, as well as geographical indications, practice, and procedure. Okay, so then when we talk about technology transfer, once an invention has been disclosed and you have protected it with a patent, and you go to licensing and monitoring, and finally you can transfer the technology, wherein a startup company or an entrepreneur of a big company or a big company can take over, and they are going to pay you hefty sums of money because you are selling basically a patent to a company which is a manufacturer. You as an individual person, you may not have the money and power to produce products in a large scale. So the technology transfer process has to be therefore followed, and eventually there will be a product development and commercialization and revenue and monitoring, and a deal will be made with you for you to sell the patent over a period of time, and you are going to be given a hefty sum of money depending on how productive your patent is going to be. Okay, so basically as a university or an institute like us, we have to we can innovate, and if we can apply for a patent and we can protect it, we can later think of commercializing it by through technology transfer process. Okay, so that is what I wanted to cover in this particular talk. But apart from that, it will be good also to take a brief look at the website. Quickly, I'll show you that. So this is the website. So ipindia.gov.in, like I said, it is an excellently maintained website, and it has got all information what you might need at the tips of your finger. Okay, so you don't have to depend on anybody, because information might coming from different people might disorient you. So anybody who wants to understand what is the law and what is the procedure, everything is available in the website. Then there is also one, just briefly, I'll quickly show you that. So that is this particular GI, registered geographical indications. So you have a list which is continuously being populated with newer and newer GI tags added. Okay, for instance, I'll just quickly show you how we can look for a tag. For example, the Rosagulla, it is a very interesting and a very funny thing, but also it is nothing funny about it. Okay, so we have to be very sure about protecting the rights of a. So for instance, this is Bangalore Rasgulla. It has got a GI number 533. It is from West Bengal. Similarly, you have the Odisha Rasagolla, and it has a number 612. Okay, so like that. So for every thing that is unique to a geographic place, you can apply for a GI and get a tag to it. Okay, so that much is what I thought I'll share with you. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, sir. It surely was helpful to learn about IPR. Next, we have Professor Arijit Baral. Sir, I introduce you here to talk with us. His area of expertise is pre-incubations and incubation management.
Okay. Thank you, Niharika. I think my voice is audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me share the presentation first. Okay. So the presentation that I will be giving is based on pre-incubation and incubation management. Now, before we go into the detail of what these terms mean, the first thing that you need to understand is that once you have an incubator, just every idea that actually comes to that particular facility is not worth pursuing. Okay, so pre-incubation is a phase where you actually select what type of idea you are having and what are the different way in which you can gather idea also, because you have already the facility available to you, so you need to screen idea. So the pre-incubation is that phase, so you need to select or shortlist ideas which is worth pursuing. Now, the first thing that you need to understand in order to understand this particular phase, which is idea screening and refinement, because the professors who actually gave the presentation before this, they actually emphasized on what the ideas should be based on. So what are the different avenues on which the ideas can be generated? Now, just every point or every idea or every point that was mentioned over there will be hundreds of problems. But whether a particular problem is worth pursuing, that you will have to understand. In order to elaborate, let me say that suppose you have an idea, idea X. Now, in order to understand whether that idea is viable or not, you need to understand what is the pain point involved in this idea. Who are the target customers for it? Okay. And once you have identified these 2 points, these two are the very major point in generating the idea. You need to evaluate how strong that idea is, whether there is sufficient market opportunity, whether there is value proposition, how is it different from the available methodologies or products that are available in the market, whether there is some regulatory landscape which will be influencing the product, what will be the cost for it, what is the price point, and as well as the obstacle and challenges which are involved in mitigating the solution. So all these points must be considered for selecting a criteria that needs to be incubated at a particular incubator. So these points are actually important that needs to be considered while selecting that. Okay, so obviously you need guided monitoring and coaching to make an idea bankable, because the whenever you are talking about a startup, whenever you're talking about incubating an idea, it is not a one-man show. Okay, so there will be a team, and every personnel in that team will have certain specialization of their own. So just bringing a team which have different specializations altogether, they needs to be guided, okay, so that the idea becomes a bankable one. Okay, and there will be technical assistance required, because if you have an idea and you need to implement it so that it is realized in a product form, so for that you need technical assistance. Simply by having an incubator, having a different costly machines will not simply help you. Okay, obviously, progressive evaluation is also required to keep track of the timelines and milestones that needs to be considered for achieving a particular idea. Okay, so the next thing that you need to understand is the pre-incubation type pipeline. Now, when you're talking about an incubator, you need to understand something, that this incubator will actually act as a facility where different ideas will be realized in the form of startup, or where the different ideas will be incubated. So that means ideas can come from different avenue. So the first point that needs to be understood is that you need to identify the startup based on the focus of the incubator. For example, suppose an incubator is actually designed and developed to handle products which are related to biology, okay, or related to some particular field of specialization of engineering. Now you need to attract only those ideas which are based on or which are focused on that particular discipline. You just cannot attract every idea and promise that, okay, I will be giving the facility and you should be working on this. So this simply will not happen. Okay. Now, another way in which the ideas can be generated is by organizing hackathons. Okay. So it's a very renowned platform where you can give the particular problem and students come up with brilliant ideas to solve them out. Okay. So this is also an avenue from which you can get the basic ideas, or students or users can get the basic idea how you can solve a problem. Okay. And the pipeline from student, faculties, and lab, obviously, when we are doing some research in the university level, so students, research scholars will be coming up with ideas, but that will be theoretical based. Okay, the theory which is realized in pen and paper, or at least some level of laboratory work, that is simply not sufficient for realizing that idea in product form. For that, you need scalability of the particular research, which needs extra facility, which will be provided by the incubators. Okay. And obviously, online presence is a big issue. Okay. So the previous presenter was actually talking about brand. So this is where it comes into the picture. Now, this is a very important thing when you are talking about pre-incubation, because network activities, any kind of network, whether you are talking about network within the incubators, whether you are talking about giving seminars or peer-to-peer interaction in order to understand what are the different topics which are being discussed. So any kind of network activities will enrich the idea, which will actually make the idea more marketable, which in the process will help the expert committee to screen it through the pre-incubation process so that it becomes an idea which is worth incubating. Okay, so the first thing that you need to understand when we are actually starting a program is that you cannot hope that every knowledge or information or skill that is required for incubating an idea will be actually available in-house. You need to gather more information from expert consultant, which will be actually available, and that is again available through networking process only. So a big way in which you can gather this information, so-called gaps, in order to reach a particular idea stage so that it can be incubated later on, is by using usable expert network. Okay, they will be coming in the form of supervisors, teachers, investors, service providers, as well as interns. Okay? Now, once you have the idea, it will be the responsibility of the screening committee who will be actually validating or investigating whether that particular idea is bankable, whether that particular idea is worth sharing information with, okay, or sharing resources with. So you start with your presentation, and the presentation will be shared with the advisory for comments. Obviously, this is the preliminary state. Then it will be going to the review team for pre-incubation, and then it will be going to the presented to the screening committee, and finally it will go to the implementation stage. And once that is completed, it will go into the legal formalities. Okay. So what is the screening committee will be composed of? Now, screening committees will be a two-stage process. The first will be composed of the university level criteria, which will be university head, departmental head, but this is not the final state. You need another expert committee with diverse knowledge so that you can actually make the product bankable. So for that, you need different opinions. For example, a buyer's view, that means what the actual market requires, what is the incubation perspective, what will be the policymakers perspective, and what will be the technology perspective. So all these things must be taken into account for considering whether an idea is actually worth incubating. So the selection criteria may be actually simplified in this form. So whether the team composition is correct or not. Okay, so that team should be composed of domain expert, business and marketing professions, and also technical expert, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this requirement that the team is optimum one is a very, very important thing, because once you start with a team, every crucial points become important, because you are not doing publishing a paper, you are actually trying to implement the idea in product form. So realizing a product from the idea stage will require different type of expertise down the line. So each and every member of the team must perform flawlessly. So team composition is a very important thing. Now, simply because you have an idea, there is some market for it, and the cost is low, doesn't make it an innovative element. So if you want an innovative product which will ensure its marketability in the market, there needs to be an innovative solution for it. But in order to understand, or in order to implement or identify the innovativeness of your product, you need to first understand what are the major problems associated with it. What major problems actually help you in identifying the problem that you want to implement in the first place. obviously there will be market and social impact, because suppose you have a problem X, okay, and you know for sure that if I give a solution Y, it will solve the problem X, but probably solution Y will have some other implications somewhere else, which may not make that particular solution Y marketable. So you need to understand, you need to evaluate what will be the market or social impact of the solution that you are providing. Okay. And obviously, when you are designing a product, the challenges that comes with bill of materials, liability, regulation, market access, all these things must be taken into account. And this business model is an extremely important thing. It will require a presentation on its own to understand what the business model of the product should be, because it's just an orientation program. So I am actually going briefly over the point that you need to understand what a pre-incubation and incubation management is all about. Now, once you have finalized that this idea needs to be incubated, or this idea is worth incubating, you need to formalize it. Okay, so this will require some legal proceedings, which will be again governed by the rules that the incubator has. And finally, once the rules or parameters have been set, there needs to be a definitive agreement for it, so that these both the startup team as well as the incubator are bound by those. Okay, but simply by considering an idea and achieving some of the goal that you have set simply doesn't make a process market ready. You need to set certain milestones for it, and these milestones will be there so that the product actually can reach maturity. Okay, for example, you need to finalize the timeline for the product development. Okay, so suppose you have in your mind an idea what the product will look like, but suppose within the time frame it is not possible, or simply the technology isn't there to realize the solution in that form. So suppose you say that, okay, so Mark 1 version of the product will be ready by this particular time, Mark 2 will be ready by this particular time, and the final version of the product will be ready by this time. So you need to set these milestones. Okay, and you need to actually take care of that milestone, because if you miss a milestone, obviously the product will get delayed. And once the product gets delayed, because you have already released some version of it, there might be a chance a better version of that particular product using some other technology, so that it doesn't violate copyright or IPR, will come into the market, and you will lose the market in the first place. Okay, so financial management metrics is also a very important thing. What will be the operational efficiency? What will be the different customer acquisition cost? What will be the revenue rate which will be considered for that? So all these things needs to be considered. Okay, and they needs to be decided in the form of milestone. And you, whatever team is actually going for this particular incubation, should not miss the milestones. And once you have incubated the idea, so in order to ensure that this product is actually going to run or stay in the market for a very long time, or is going to perform as per your expectation, you need to review the progress of the product or of the startup company that you are considering. Okay, you need to do it periodically. So this falls under the category of where you have already incubated the idea and you have designed the product and you have launched the product in the market, and then you need to follow up the established deadlines so that the product remains marketable. So obviously, when you are thinking of a problem X and you have provided a solution Y, it may happen that the solution that you are actually thinking of may not be the best possible solution you can provide. There might be a better solution which may be provided when you have already designed solution Y. Maybe that particular idea has come to your mind. So you need to take corrective actions. You need to make the development progresses in such a fashion that the enhancement can come into your product, and so that you can go to the next level. Okay, now simply by clearing the pre-incubation state and going into the incubator as a possible team to develop a startup or to develop a product simply doesn't mean that your performance is ensured. There are certain factors that you need to consider in which your assistance by the incubator can get revoked. For example, if you set a deadline that I will be actually delivering the product in this form by this particular date, and if you fail that, and if you fail that repetitively, then the incubator might think that this idea might have potential, but the team who is actually trying to implement the idea, trying to realize the product in the form, trying to realize the solution in the form of product, may not be competent enough. So that might stop the incubator from extending their facilities. Okay. So obviously, if there is some conflict of interest means essentially, suppose you need a solution X, so you need a solution Y, and the market, which actually determines whether the solution Y can be absorbed in it, is having a considerable influence, or this market is being considerably influenced by one of the team member. So that means essentially you are controlling the market so that your product gets a best possible pitch. So this is some sort of conflict of interest going on. So in these sort of cases, the incubators will be forced to stop extending their facilities. So you need to consider all these points into mind so that your product realize the ultimate state. Okay. So this will be the end of my presentation. Okay.
Thank you, sir. With this, we have come to the end of this session. It was a great session by Professor Himanshu Bhushan Mishra, Professor R. Anand, and Professor Arijit Baral. I would like to thank all our three innovation ambassadors. I would also like to thank Professor Tarachan Amgot, and I would like to thank my fellow team members from the Student Innovation Cell.
Niharika, I would like to say something. First of all, I will thankful to Professor Mishra and Professor Anand and Professor Arijit. So they have given wonderful talk. I think I hope it's really useful to all of us, especially we are aspiring for the innovation and entrepreneurships. Okay, so I'm really thankful to them, and we hope we'll want to. I'll also appreciate all the team members of NVCTA. We have taken lots of pain to start this event, and I hope we'll organize similar kind of events in future also. Okay, thanks to all the students members of NVCTA team. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.